How's it going? My name is Zane, and welcome back to another episode of I Am Zane Film Class. Today, we're going to be deep diving in a topic that every filmmaker faces at some point, which is filming in challenging environments. Whether it's low light conditions or unexpected obstacles, I've got you covered in some pro tips. First up, let's tackle some low light conditions. You know, the moment the sun decides to take a break and your shoot doesn't. Here's what you can do. Tip number 1, embrace the ISO gain, bumping up your ISO settings to amplify, available light, but just be aware of the noise. Strike the right amount of balance for that cinematic look. Tip number 2, open up that aperture. A lower f-stop lets more light in, creating that dreamy, shallow depth of field. But just remember to nail that focus. Tip number 3, invest in a quality lens. A lens that has a wide aperture, like a 50mm lens, and you could set it at 1.8 or at f2, can really be a game changer in low light situations. Now let's talk about obstacles head on. From unpredictable weather to tight spaces, having the right gear and strategy can save the day. Tip number 4, bring on stabilizers. A steady shot is crucial, especially when your equipment is working against you. Consider like a gimbal or a monopod or like a Ronin, just so you can stabilize your shots, especially in low light situations where the focus might go back and forth, so you want to have some stability. Tip number 5, you want to pack light but pack smart. When space is limited, versatile gear is your best friend. Think about a compact LED light or some collapsible reflectors and versatile lenses. You want to be able to optimize your gear based on the space that you're filming in. Tip number 6, scout your location ahead of time. Knowing the challenges that you'll face will allow you to plan for the unexpected. It's all about just being prepared, especially if you're going to be in an area that you know it might rain. You want to be able to kind of set up your gear or whatever material that you have for that shoot in shaded areas that are covered away from any water so it doesn't damage your gear, as well as wet the talent. Before we wrap up, I just want to share a story with you from the field. And trust me, every challenge comes with a lesson. So I remember filming, and it was a night scene, and it just started raining, like drizzling, and then it started to get heavy. And then my lighting gear was getting soaked, the actors were shivering. The experience really just taught me how to better prepare for like the future projects that I have, because you can never really avoid problems that you'll have without having to live the problem in that moment. So the best thing to do is any situation or obstacle that comes your way, make sure you take some notes and learn how to respond to that moment for future projects, so that way it doesn't reoccur again. Because now I know I have to make sure to cover my bags with plastic, make sure I have extra plastic ponchos for the talent or the actors, as well as make sure that I set a location for people to remain dry just in case it were to rain. Another story that I have is that I was shooting in like a small area. It was like an attic scene, and I had to get creative with the camera placement and the lighting angles. So I just taught myself to just be a little more adaptable in those scenes. So what I did was I just took some of the tube lights that I had and I started to place them in the attic, and it was behind like the wooden beams at the top. So the light was coming down, so I just had to plan accordingly. So I had to just kind of visualize the scene with no light, and then I just added my light so that way I could freely move around with the camera without being restricted with any of the light stands. I didn't want any light stands on the ground, mainly because there wasn't enough space for the crew, myself, or the actors to move around freely for the scene. So sometimes you just have to take things away or just modify what exists so that way it makes it easier for everybody. So always learn how to read the room and be adaptable. And that concludes our video, but I just want you to remember every setback is a chance to learn and improve. So just keep on pushing those creative boundaries and don't let anything hold you back. And if you found this video helpful, make sure you hit that button and subscribe. Until next time, keep those cameras rolling, and I will see you next week.